After 15 years of a child-free marriage, my husband had multiple illegitimate children. And the woman? She wasn't even in a rush to marry him. She played it smart. I didn't have children, and illegitimate children still held full legal inheritance rights. She didn't need to become the wife. Her children would inherit the wealth Diego and I had spent our entire lives building either way. I thought about it for a long time. Sure, divorce would get me half the assets, but what remained would still be more than enough for them to live luxuriously for generations. Too easy, too generous. So why not go bankrupt instead? After all, I'm alone. As long as I don't starve, that's enough for me. Let's see how she plans to raise those kids once there's nothing left to inherit. Chapter 1. When I found out Diego had cheated. His illegitimate son was already about to start kindergarten, and the second child was on the way. The reason I found out so late was simple. No one in Diego's family is worth a damn. They'd all worked together to help him cover it up for years. The only reason I found out at all was because that woman got pregnant again, and Diego took her to the hospital. Someone snapped a photo of him entering the OBGYN clinic and sent it to me. When I received the photo, I froze for 2 minutes. The anger didn't even get a chance to erupt before logic buried it. After years of working in business, I'd long since grown out of reacting on impulse. Without the full story, I wouldn't confront him recklessly. I paid top dollar to investigate. Within 2 days, everything Diego had hidden from me came to light. 4 years ago, Diego secretly started supporting a young woman fresh out of college. 3 years ago, she gave him a son. Now she's pregnant again, this time with twins. Apparently, no wonder Diego's mother stopped pressuring me to have kids. I used to think she'd just given up due to our age. Turns out she already had a grandson. Chapter 2. Once I confirmed the affair, I forced myself to stay calm. I didn't confront Diego right away. The fact that he cheated was already established. No matter how loud I screamed, it wouldn't change that. What I needed to think about now was how to handle the divorce in a way that maximized my interests. In the adult world, self-interest comes first. I spent an entire afternoon in a quiet place, replaying our 15 years of marriage. The decision to be child-free? It was Diego's idea from the start. Yet now, he's the one regretting it? In our early years, we built everything from scratch. No backing, no connections. Even our families didn't really support us. We struggled, and now that success has finally arrived. His first move is to find a younger woman to bear his children? How ironic. In just one afternoon, I consulted several lawyers. Turns out, without a prenuptial or postnup agreement, even if he was the one who cheated, unless Diego agrees to it, I can't force him to leave with nothing. That door was shut. I needed another plan, and fast. That's when Diego called me. He asked why I wasn't home yet. I looked at the time, after 10 p.m. For all these years, even while secretly keeping another family outside, Diego never returned home later than 10. Only when entertaining clients did he stay out late. That was exactly why I never suspected him. But I forgot. Someone who really wants to cheat doesn't need much time to do it. When I got home, it was already 11 at night. Diego was sitting on the couch, scrolling on his phone. When he heard the door open, he looked up. In his 40s now, he hadn't gained weight or gone bald. At first glance, he looked like a man who had aged into maturity and calm, but I clearly saw how he instinctively turned off his phone screen and placed it face down on the coffee table. Details I had never paid attention to before suddenly felt glaringly obvious. Once suspicion takes root, everything becomes suspicious. He walked over to me like he always did, took my bag from my hand, and smiled gently. "Why so late? You must be tired." For a moment, I froze. How could someone do something so shameful to their marriage and still show not the slightest trace of guilt? He had hidden it for 4 or 5 years without a single crack. My partner in bed had a mind so meticulous. It made my bones feel cold. Maybe because I didn't answer. Diego's expression turned a little puzzled. "What's wrong?" I turned away, trying to stay composed, and shook my head. "Nothing, just a bit tired." After more than 20 years together, Diego knew me too well. He could sense the smallest change in my tone, my look, my movements. Then again, so could I. I knew this photo of him accompanying her to a prenatal checkup wasn't taken by accident. Nor was it a slip-up. He simply no longer cared to hide. The company had finally stabilized. I endured all the pain of those early, brutal years, while someone else waited to reap the rewards. Why should I accept that? I brushed him off with a few more vague words, showing no sign that I'd found out about the affair. Diego probably still didn't know I had discovered everything. He acted the same as always, though he checked his phone far more frequently. For middle-aged couples, calm and routine can sometimes be a kind of blessing, but there are always those who aren't content with peace. Restlessness surged inside me, wave after wave. I wanted to scream, to shout, to slap Diego in the face, to break down and demand, "Why did you betray me?" I even imagined getting revenge the same way, by cheating on him too. But once the storm of emotions finally subsided, I felt like a stranger to myself. Yes, betrayal should be punished. But punishing someone doesn't have to mean hurting yourself. Diego is already rotten enough. I refuse to become rotten like him. Chapter 3. I knew I couldn't keep up the act for long, but transferring part of the assets would take time. A cheating man is as disgusting as a used tissue tossed into a latrine. 20 years of love, and all the hardship I'd endured, instantly became sunk costs the moment I found out there was a third person between us. This marriage with Diego has become a high-stakes sunk cost. I'm far from as calm as I appear. It's just that the searing pain of emotional betrayal is pushing me to become increasingly rational. Diego is completely rotten. This marriage is rotten, but our company hasn't fallen apart, yet. The ties between us run too deep. Pull one thread and everything comes undone. Some things aren't as simple as divorce. About half a month after I found out about the affair, Diego finally sensed something was off. That day, he stood at the study door for a long time. In the end, he couldn't hold it in and asked, "Is something wrong?" No matter how much I told myself to stay rational, I could no longer share a bed with Diego. For some trivial reason, I had kicked him into the guest room for half a month, and even my replies to his messages were perfunctory. He's always been suspicious. Maybe he already guessed the truth. But I never confronted him. I didn't explode. I didn't go after her either. So even though he had the question on the tip of his tongue, he swallowed it. I rubbed my aching temples and decided to go on the offensive. I found some irregularities in the financial reports lately. Several major expenses don't add up. I knew exactly where those funds had gone. And as the one who approved them, Diego obviously knew better than me. The woman he's keeping outside had already given birth once and was pregnant again. Naturally, she needed to be well provided for. And Diego, now over 40 and a successful entrepreneur, had the means to satisfy her. Diego visibly froze for a second. I saw the fingers on his right hand curl tight at his side. But within moments, he regained his composure. "It was me. I authorized those expenses." I looked up and met his eyes. He quickly looked away and offered a guilty explanation. "I've been doing some small investments with Elias the past couple of years. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to worry. Elias is his childhood friend. He would cover for him no matter what." I didn't press for more. Diego didn't elaborate either. He simply closed the door and left. He had figured out I knew about the other family he was hiding. Yet he wasn't even flustered, as if he was sure I'd tolerate it. In other words, even if I didn't, what could I do? If I filed for divorce now, he'd be the one gaining closure. He's rich, has a happy family, and might soon have 2 kids. And me, nearly 40, and completely alone. Even so, staying entangled with someone like him holds no meaning whatsoever. Chapter 4. It was becoming harder and harder for me to tolerate Diego playing the role of husband in my life. But the asset transfer hadn't been completed yet. All I could do was continue the Cold War with him. Maybe he was waiting for me to come around. Or maybe he was waiting for me to bring up divorce. Either way, I wasn't about to let Diego get off easy. On the 20th day after discovering his affair, I finally saw the woman he was keeping. She must have learned something from Diego, because she came to provoke me directly, using the oldest trick in the book, a coincidental run-in at the cafe I frequented. She even took my usual seat by the window. Not long ago, the people I hired had already sent me plenty of photos and videos of her. I recognized her at a glance. She was still young, probably 25 or 26, and everything she wore, from her clothes to the bag beside her, screamed luxury. Perhaps Diego had sheltered her too well. She still had a youthful glow about her, and even a hint of that dumb, clear-eyed optimism. It made me think of myself at 25, newly married to Diego, living together in a shabby little rental, barely scraping by on modest salaries, wearing faded clothes I'd washed to near transparent. Those were the years we fought side by side to save up our first pot of money. Late at night, when emotions got the better of him, Diego used to swear he'd never betray me. I suppose there was some sincerity in those words, back then. But sincere feelings don't survive the passage of time. I pretended not to recognize her and ordered my usual coffee, taking a seat diagonally across from her. I didn't even glance her way. Soon enough, she shattered the impression I had of her. She moved across from me with a smirk full of provocation and called out, "Mrs. Diego." It was clear, she knew exactly who I was. So she wasn't a victim of seduction. She was willingly the other woman. Now she wanted to challenge me openly? As the mistress? TCH. Did she even realize half the things she ate, wore, and used were paid for by my money? I took a sip of coffee, my gaze skimming over her slightly swollen belly. "And you are?" She didn't dare confess her disgraceful identity. She stammered out some awkward excuse for how she knew me. The excuse was pathetically unconvincing. I said nothing, just stared at her with a half-smile, letting her know I saw right through her little game. A parasite clinging to others for survival loses all resilience. Under my gaze, she lasted less than 30 seconds before fleeing in panic. That retreating figure, so hurried, so pathetic. I felt a little sad for her, and for this society. Young, healthy, capable, yet she chose to become someone's surrogate womb. Chapter 5. Whether or not Diego knew about this, the fact that his mistress came to provoke me was his problem. I decided it was time to officially move divorce to the top of my list. But before I could act, I received several WeChat messages from a friend. She sent me screenshots of the mistress showing off on her social feed again. Nothing new there, until I saw the last one. It came with a note from my friend. "She's provoking you. Everyone has at least a couple trustworthy childhood friends, right?" I had mine add her on WeChat. From then on, any move she made, I'd know about it instantly. When I opened the final screenshot, I saw her latest post. It was a photo of a laughing child rolling on the floor, along with a smug caption that basically said, "So what if you're proud and arrogant now? Everything you worked so hard to build will one day belong to my guild." Oh, right. I nearly forgot. She has a child. I don't. And although her kid with my husband is illegitimate, he still has inheritance rights. This world is so fucking messed up. I looked again at the divorce agreement in my hand. If I divorced Diego, I could fight for 70% of our assets at best. But the remaining 30%, plus the company's annual profits, would be more than enough to support their happy little family for generations. Thanks to that post, I was suddenly wide awake. This wouldn't do. It was too easy on them. The path I built with blood, sweat, and years. No one walks it without my permission. Chapter 6. After a month of cold silence, Diego finally started trying to make peace. He probably thought that since I hadn't exploded for so long, I'd forgive him easily again, just like every other time he made a small mistake. He was dead wrong. Not only did I not forgive him, I unleashed a verbal hell upon him. I ripped off his false, polished mask, and hurled the vilest, most vicious insults I could think of right at his face. His elegant, refined expression began to crack, inch by inch, under every blow. Eventually, he tried to fight back. "Lisa, do you have any idea how you sound right now? Like a complete shrew." "A shrew?" I let out a cold laugh, and looked at him like he was a pile of trash. "I'll gladly admit I'm a shrew. Do you have the guts to admit you're a cheating pig? A walking STD? A man who betrayed his marriage?" Diego's face turned ashen. That peaceful month had lulled him into a fantasy. He thought I would compromise. Maybe he believed that, since I was nearing 40, had no children, and co-founded the company with him, I'd be incapable of surviving without him, that I'd never really leave. He didn't understand me at all. After nearly 20 years together, I thought he knew me. I overestimated him. My solo tirade lasted 3 straight hours. In the end, Diego slammed the door behind him and left, but not before throwing out a self-righteous line. I need to rethink this marriage. TCH. You're not even worthy of rethinking it. We built this company together. No one knows its inner workings better than the two of us. Correction, I probably know it better than he does. Chapter 7. Since that explosive fight, Diego never came home again. He openly moved into the mistress's place, and I, just as openly, started targeting the company. I knew the company couldn't crash too quickly. Not because I still cared about Diego, but because the twins in her belly weren't full term yet. She still had the right to terminate the pregnancy. That wouldn't do. We need the full 5-member happy family. On the 9th day of Diego's absence, his mother showed up at our house. The same woman who had always looked down on me for not giving her a grandchild, now sat on my couch with a fake smile, dropping passive-aggressive comments about how I shouldn't be fighting with Diego. She lived off the food, clothing, and comfort Diego and I provided. And yet, she always credited it to his success alone. Even Diego's affair somehow became a point of pride in her mind. I stared at her coldly. Didn't even bother faking polite replies this time. After a while, she grew impatient. She said, "Lisa, listen to your mother-in-law. Diego said he doesn't want a divorce. Why don't you just raise that child as your own? He's still young, 2 or 3 years old. He won't even remember. Whoever treats him well, he'll naturally get attached. He'll even care for you when you're old." "Are you done?" I interrupted coldly, reaching over to open the door. "If so, kindly leave." Her expression changed. Those cloudy eyes of hers stared at me. And then she smirked. "Lisa, you're almost 40. You don't even have a child. And at your age, you probably can't have one anymore. If you get divorced now, who'd want you?" In her outdated worldview, a woman only had value if a man wanted her. I looked at the gold bracelet on her wrist, then at her wrinkled but smug face. Calmly, I reminded her, Diego cheated. If I divorce him and take this to court, he could leave with nothing. Her face turned pale instantly. She glared at me. Her scarab practically swallowed her pupils. It was almost grotesque. "That's impossible." Her voice cracked. "Diego already told me, even if you divorce, you'll only get half at most." So he had spoken to a lawyer. From the moment he cheated, he must have already considered divorcing me more than once. Realizing she'd said too much, the old woman softened her tone, but her attitude was still smug. "Lisa, you two love each other too much to divorce. If you split, it won't affect Diego much, but people will laugh at you. And what's the point of having so much money as a childless woman? When you're old, who'll take care of you? Who'll be there in your final days?" She kept rambling. Everything out of her mouth was about how miserable I'd be in old age. People, they enjoy comfort for a few years and forget every hardship they once endured. No matter. I'll make sure they remember. Chapter 8. Diego and I no longer had any contact. Our marriage existed in name only. He grew increasingly bold with that woman, as if convinced I couldn't stir up any real trouble. He even publicly posted photos of the child on his social media. Some relatives began to advise me, "Just endure it. It'll pass. Men fool around when they're rich. What matters is that he still comes home." Friends in my social circle urged me to get a divorce, though more than a few suggested I hurry up and do IVF while I still could have a child. Their mindset was so rotten. I began to question whether we were still living in the 21st century. A successful man cheating on his wife had, in some twisted perception, become understandable. I ignored all those so-called kind-hearted suggestions. I hadn't been idle these days. I was busy identifying the company's fatal weaknesses. Maybe it was how determined I seemed, leaving no way back, that scared Nicole, my best friend. She couldn't help but try to reason with me. "You could try negotiating for 80% of the assets. If you push the company into bankruptcy, won't all your hard work be wasted?" I rejected it immediately. I remember every bit of hardship I endured when we started this business. I won't let anyone enjoy the fruits of my labor. Nicole fell silent for a moment. Then she gave me a thumbs up. "You're savage, an icon of our generation." I'd already built strong connections in the business world. Over the years, I personally handled many of our key clients. Even if I failed, I'd never lack the courage to start again from scratch. Chapter 9. When that woman reached 27 weeks into her pregnancy, the company hit its first financial crisis. Diego wasn't too worried at first, but as I made no move to intervene and the crisis showed signs of growing, he finally started to panic. At that point, he could no longer keep up the Cold War. He called in a rush, hoping to discuss countermeasures with me. Over the years, we had solved almost every major business issue together. I had conditioned him into relying on me. He simply didn't know how to lead alone anymore. It was only now that Diego realized he couldn't reach me at all. I had blocked every single one of his contact methods. Desperate, he started contacting our mutual friends, anyone he thought I might still speak to. In the end, with no other choice, he began waiting outside the entrances of the properties we co-owned. To avoid alerting him too soon, I finally agreed to meet him when he showed up all disheveled, blocking my way. Nicole said what I did was like hand-washing underwear with a poker face. I replied, giving him hope, then pulling the rug. That's what hurts the most. The first crisis was a shipment blocked by customs. The delay led to major penalty fees and a massive financial loss. Diego had no time left to cuddle up to that woman or play the doting dad. I didn't know whether Diego suspected me, and frankly, I didn't care. After the first crisis was resolved, Diego started coming home on time every day, as if trying to show his remorse. But from that day on, I stopped going home. I changed residences every night, sometimes hotels, sometimes short rentals. Diego still couldn't reach me. He couldn't find me. Not that he had time to search, because the second crisis hit, this time a serious tax issue, bigger and far more dangerous. Had I not timed everything just right, both Diego and I might have ended up in prison. But I had a clear head. Crying behind bars for a man like Diego wasn't worth it. After the tax scandal, more issues began popping up. Our competitors, seeing blood, were rushing to get their piece. The company's collapse accelerated, just as I had planned. Watching Diego burn himself out, I felt nothing. No sadness, no joy. In the short term, Diego would never guess that the two disasters that brought down his empire were both orchestrated by me, wounding the enemy by 1,000 cuts. Even if I hurt myself in the process, to destroy him, I also destroyed his last source of wealth, and my own. Chapter 10. Even the best company can't withstand blow after blow. On the day the company officially declared bankruptcy, Diego was already the father of 3 children. That woman had given birth to a pair of twin boys, and Diego now not only had no money in his pockets, he was also drowning in debt. I heard that woman no longer had her former arrogant attitude. During her postpartum confinement, she cried every day. Her carefully curated social media? No updates for a long time. She had already delivered the babies, no way to undo that. But things didn't end there. While Diego's hair was turning white from worry, I filed a lawsuit to recover all the assets he had spent on his mistress. We weren't divorced yet, and what he gave away still counted as marital property. That's also why I hadn't brought up divorce until now. Every cent he spent, I would make sure he returned it all. Rumor has it that the day she received the court summons, that woman fainted on the spot in the hospital. Years of scheming, gone in a flash. In the end, she lost both the man and the battle. Of course she couldn't handle it. Chapter 11. When Diego finally managed to track me down, I was staying at Nicole's place. All properties under our names had been seized, and each of us was buried under millions in debt. Debt collectors were blowing up our phones nonstop. We're not young anymore, and Diego knew it too. If we couldn't make a strong comeback this time, we'd never recover for the rest of our lives. This time, Diego came to beg me to drop the lawsuit against that woman. He hung his head, not daring to look at me. Gone was the arrogance from when we used to argue. Lisa, she just gave birth. Her body hasn't recovered yet. Can you, maybe, drop the case? Don't spew bullshit if you don't have anything useful to say. I cut him off coldly, with zero room for compromise. Diego, when you gave that money away, did it never cross your mind that half of it was mine? That I could take it back anytime? Of course Diego never thought of that. Just like he never thought I'd be this ruthless. In his mind, the worst that could happen was a divorce, and we'd never speak again. He probably imagined mourning 20 years of love for a while, and then moving on to enjoy a happy family and successful career. Even at this point, Diego was still making excuses for his affair. His bloodshot eyes stared at me. I had no choice. Lisa, I really didn't. My mom was driving me insane. I looked at the white strands in his hair and the deep creases around his eyes, and suddenly asked, Diego, do you remember the years when we were under the most pressure to have a baby? Diego opened his mouth a few times before finally squeezing out 2 words, I do. During those years, my mother-in-law even moved into our house. She was convinced something was wrong with us for not having kids. Let's be honest, she suspected it was me. She thought we weren't choosing not to have children, but that I physically couldn't. So she forced me to go to the hospital constantly. Even brewed up some weird wild herbs she got who knows where, claiming folk remedies could cure anything. Back then, Diego and I were just starting our business. We were overwhelmed every day and barely had energy to deal with her nonsense. Eventually, Diego couldn't take it anymore and forged a fake medical report that claimed the infertility issue was his. I still remember the shock on my mother-in-law's face, and her trembling hands as she took that fake report. If Diego once defended me like that, how could he hurt me so deeply now? The year our startup finally succeeded, I was just 33. Even if Diego broke our earlier agreement to not have kids and said he wanted one of our own, I would have understood. After all, we were dirt poor in the beginning, we couldn't even feed ourselves. Why would we bring a child into that misery? But by 33, we had made it. If Diego wanted a child, why didn't he just say so? Whether he was chasing youth or just wanted something exciting and new, it didn't matter now. I couldn't stand another word from him. Nicole and I kicked him out together. Chapter 12. Probably worried that an illegitimate child wouldn't be able to inherit his assets, Diego had a paternity test done early on. That official test ended up becoming my key evidence in the divorce lawsuit. A week after the company announced its bankruptcy, I officially filed for divorce in court. I didn't tell Diego beforehand, I knew he would never agree. We're buried in debt. When life was good, he found someone else. Now that it's hard, how could he possibly let go of me? But that's fine. There are still people in this world who stand for justice. Nicole said Diego's expression when he received the court summons was even crazier than when his mistress got hers. You should have seen it. She laughed from the couch. Your ex-mother-in-law even told him not to panic. She said you'd never dare actually divorce him. I don't know where she gets the nerve to say something like that. What? Does she think her son's some kind of prize? I laughed too. I always knew she was ignorant. Just didn't realize she was that ignorant. The court summons was already in her son's hands, and she still thought I was playing some kind of hard-to-get game? Nicole brought up the mistress again. Do you think she'll leave Diego this time? She will, I replied without hesitation. People who've once gotten a taste of shortcuts can't stomach real hardship anymore. Nicole scoffed. She's already had 3 kids. Doesn't she care about them at all? I don't have children. Nicole's not married, let alone a mother. Honestly, neither of us could really grasp that so-called motherly love, so we didn't comment further. Chapter 13. The money I recovered through the lawsuit against that woman covered part of our debts. But far from all of it. Every day I still get debt collection calls, and sometimes calls from Diego using different phone numbers. If I hear his voice, I usually hang up right away. But sometimes I don't react fast enough, and Diego never fails to surprise me with his shamelessness. He said, Lisa, you deliberately destroyed the company just to get me back, didn't you? Well, now I'm ready to return to our family. Let's start over. Together. And then, I'll make her leave. I'll leave all the kids to my parents. I promise she'll never bother our life again. I really know I was wrong. Lisa, we've been together almost 20 years. Can't you give me one more chance? Diego's calculations were loud and clear. His so-called plan to make her leave was really just asking me to go through another round of hardship with him. At first, I would still curse when I heard these words. Later, I just let them in one ear and out the other. Wasn't worth the effort. Even Nicole couldn't take it anymore. Jesus, why hasn't lightning struck him dead yet? To this day, Diego is still living in a fantasy. Who gave him the confidence to think that just because he wants to come back, I'd take him in? What a joke. I'm not a garbage recycling center. I gave up the company just to make sure he suffers. Why would I take him back? Even the tissues in a public bathroom trash bin are cleaner than him. Since the company collapsed, I've thought about it countless nights. If I had been a little softer, a little less vengeful, if I were like those cool and collected female leads in novels, maybe I would have just divorced Diego, split the assets, and gone our separate ways. He'd be happy. I'd be free. Maybe in some fantasy, he would have had a sudden epiphany post-divorce, realizing I was his true love, living the rest of his life in pain and regret. But reality doesn't work like that. Diego never had a true love. The very fact that he cheated just to chase novelty proves it. He will always love the next shiny thing the most. People like him, who only care about what benefits them, never regret losing something that no longer serves them. They feel relief. Relief from the weight of their shameful past. I've known Diego since we were young. I saw every embarrassing, desperate moment he went through back when he was nothing. But the woman he found after making it big, she only ever saw the polished, successful version of him. Only by making Diego lose what he values most, money and status, will he finally feel true regret, the kind that carves into the soul and lasts a lifetime. Chapter 14. The evidence of Diego's affair was solid, no matter how unwilling he was. The divorce went through under court enforcement. As I walked out of the courtroom, I caught a glimpse of Diego, hunched over the table with his head in his hands, sobbing uncontrollably. A middle-aged man, bankrupt and drowning in debt. With elderly parents to care for and multiple children to raise, he had mouths to feed everywhere he turned. I had spent half my life with this man. Although life eventually got sweeter, those few years of sweetness never made up for all the bitterness we endured before. I looked away and kept walking. As I reached the courthouse entrance, I saw my ex-mother-in-law and her. Each of them held a child in her arms. Their faces were equally grim, and they stood far apart. Clearly, the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law bond wasn't going so well. Strange. My ex-mother-in-law had always been desperate for grandchildren, and this woman had given her 3 golden grandsons. Wasn't this her dream? But in just a few months, she looked like she'd aged 10 years. Her hair, once perfectly dyed without a single gray strand in sight, was now mostly white, dark at the bottom, ghost white on top, giving her a strange appearance. Her gold jewelry was gone, and her clothes, once neatly pressed, were wrinkled and worn. As for that woman, she didn't look much better compared to how she looked a few months ago at the cafe. She was completely transformed. She had clearly put on weight. Her complexion was sallow, dark circles hung under her eyes, and even her hair looked greasy. TSK. Seems like after the company's collapse, no one's had it easy. My ex-mother-in-law spotted me with her sharp eyes. Without caring that she had a child in her arms, she ran toward me, cursing at the top of her lungs. I wasn't scared, not even a bit. I was about to give her the shouting match she clearly wanted when Nicole, in her black sunglasses, strutted over like she owned the place. From a distance, she waved and shouted, "Sway, come on, let's go pay off your debts." My ex-mother-in-law looked like her eyeballs were about to pop out. Living with Diego lately, she must have experienced firsthand what it meant to be hunted down by creditors. Nicole and I headed toward the parking garage, her screams and curses fading behind us. Whatever, who cares? Nicole, a textbook rich girl, really was generous. She said she'd lend me tens of millions without blinking, but I didn't use her money to pay the debts. What I had in hand was more than enough. Thanks to the debt division and the divorce, I owed less than Diego. Plus, I'd moved some assets before the divorce. It was enough to start a new business. If Diego could scheme against me and against our marriage, why couldn't I play my cards too? Besides, all I did was protect what was already mine. Chapter 15. After clearing my debts, I didn't rush back into business. Instead, I traveled with Nicole to enjoy life for once. Back then, I was always too busy working. Nicole would invite me to go out, but I kept saying I had no time. Now, I had nothing but time. Nicole is the textbook rich girl with zero ambition, but a master in the art of eating, drinking, and having fun. We spent nearly 6 months traveling. We only returned just before the new year. Nicole has a lot of friends in high places. After being away so long, she had to reconnect. So I tagged along to one of her gatherings. I didn't expect to see Diego there. When I saw him, he was bowing and scraping in front of an obese man, trying to flatter him with a smile plastered across his face. I recognized the fat man too. He used to be a supplier for our company. Back then, he looked like a kind-hearted Buddha, always smiling. Now he looked more like a vicious demon ready to eat someone alive. I still remember Diego used to dislike him, saying he was too slick, not sincere enough. I don't know what the fat man said to him, But Diego lowered his head even more. Then the guy shoved Diego aside, straightened his collar, and swaggered off. Clearly, Diego's new startup wasn't going well. Groveling to someone he once disdained? That must have stung, especially for someone as proud as Diego. Well, I'll admit, seeing that felt amazing. Diego stood there stunned for a moment, then bent down to pick something up from the floor, hunched over as he slowly walked away. He didn't look back. He never saw me. Turns out, not rushing back into business was the right choice. The circles I move in aren't that big. Any comeback would inevitably mean running into former allies and enemies. After our company collapsed, it was impossible to tell friend from foe. When I returned to the private room, Nicole was deep in conversation with someone. She waved me over the moment she saw me. I sat down, and she leaned in. "I just heard some gossip about your ex's little canary." I blinked. "What about her?" "She ran away, but came crawling back not long after." I was confused. If she ran away, why come back? Was it for the kids? Nicole's friend chimed in with a grin. "Apparently your ex-mother-in-law was ruthless. Sent all 3 kids back to her family, no matter how badly she wanted to stay away. She had no choice." Well, that's an unexpectedly poetic ending. Chapter 16. The year my career got back on track was the end of the second year after my divorce from Diego. I was 39. Strangely enough, even though Diego had also been working hard these past 2 years, nothing he touched seemed to go right. Somehow, my ex-mother-in-law found out about my new company. She began showing up outside the building to curse me. She was old, so the police couldn't really do anything, and the security guards didn't dare lay a hand on her. She couldn't find any real fault with me, so she just repeated the same 2 insults over and over, that I was a barren old hen who couldn't lay eggs, or that I was a jinx, one who ruined both the marriage and the company. To me, her words meant nothing, just a pathetic clown putting on a tired show. I didn't waste a second of attention on her. But her actions did enrage my mother. My mother, a dignified schoolteacher who had lived her whole life by the books, hadn't said a single reproachful word when I came home divorced and bankrupt. Yet the moment she heard about my ex-mother-in-law cursing me outside my office, she completely snapped. She marched straight over there, hands on hips, and launched into a fierce shouting match. Turns out, a well-read, eloquent teacher is an absolute weapon in a verbal fight. That old hag never stood a chance, no matter how much of a shrieking banshee she was. My mom out-argued her every time. After 2 or 3 days of being thoroughly outmatched, the old woman got so worked up she called an ambulance and never came back again. My life finally returned to peace. My mother never brought up marriage again, and at 40, I actually met someone I clicked with. That same year, Nicole, who always claimed marriage was a grave and swore she'd be a forever free little princess, met her own long-overdue true love. Yep, we both had promising futures ahead. Diego's side story. By the 10th year of my marriage to Lisa, the business we built together was finally gaining momentum. My mom began pestering me more frequently to get checked at the hospital. Every day, she'd boil these disgustingly bitter herbal tonics and force me to drink them. I didn't want to. Every time I resisted, she'd cry, saying how hard it had been to raise me. She'd go on, how Lisa and I didn't have any kids, how all that money meant nothing if there was no one to carry on the name, how we'd die one day and no one would even bury us. At first, I didn't take those words to heart. I'd been raised to believe that life wasn't just about breeding. That's why, during our hardest years, I told Lisa I wanted to be child-free. I thought she'd hesitate, but she agreed easily. She even said, if having a child just means inheriting our suffering, then not having one is an act of kindness. So, Lisa didn't want kids either. The entrepreneurial path was hellish. I wanted to give up so many times, but Lisa kept dragging me forward, saying, there's no such thing as an easy life. Thankfully, we made it. We succeeded. After our success, my mother's nagging started to sound a little more reasonable. I began to wonder, if we had no children, then who would inherit all we'd built? No wonder my cousins had suddenly started getting so chummy, always saying they wanted to bring their kids over to visit. I began to regret the whole child-free thing, but I didn't know how to bring it up to Lisa. She was so focused on the company. I doubted she'd agree. Eventually, I gave in to temptation. Elias, my childhood friend, introduced me to a 21-year-old college girl. She had the softest, Most youthful skin. I liked her a lot, but I didn't dare cross the line because I couldn't bear to lose Lisa. Then Elias said, "Marriage and love aren't always the same thing." Other friends chimed in, "Come on, Diego. Every man has a secret muse. As long as no one talks, your wife will never know." And so, I fell and I had a child out of wedlock. My mom was thrilled. While cuddling the baby, she cursed Lisa, calling her heartless, saying she was the one who couldn't have kids and had the nerve to blame me. I didn't argue. I'd taken the blame before. Just to protect Lisa, I didn't want my mom to harass her. Once I had a kid, I played out every possible scenario of what would happen if Lisa found out. Every version ended in heartbreak. Each one made my chest tighten with dread. She'd suffered so much with me, I didn't want to lose her. So I got my parents and my closest friends to keep it all secret. With time, the guilt began to fade. Lisa really trusted me. The kid turned 2, and she hadn't noticed a thing. One day, I suddenly felt done with hiding. The company was worth over $100 million. Even if Lisa found out and divorced me now, I'd walk away with tens of millions. Deep down, I still believed Lisa wouldn't divorce me. She had no children, and she was getting older, probably too late to start again. I even thought that if she was willing to accept the slightly twisted marriage, maybe one day, my kid could take care of her too. And if she didn't accept it, fine. We'd split up. I'd regret the past. But we'd both move on. After all, we did love each other deeply when we were young, but what can resist the changes of time? Lisa found out. She didn't confront me, didn't start a fight. She just casually told me to move into the guest room. I thought she was avoiding a big scene, that she'd eventually forgive me. But she did explode, cursing me in every possible way. I got frustrated and called her a shrew, told her to calm down, and left the house. I never imagined she would destroy everything just to make sure I paid. She never brought up divorce, but our company kept sinking, one crisis after another, until it finally went bankrupt. I knew she'd had a hand in it, but even in my anger, I couldn't bring myself to blame her. That company, we built it together, and I was the one who betrayed the marriage. I had considered the consequences. I just never thought she'd go so far. That's when the regret hit me, for real. More than losing the kid, I feared returning to that poverty we'd once escaped. But Lisa, she wasn't afraid. Of course she wasn't. She had crawled out of those hard times once. She knew how to survive. She never feared hardship. She always fought her way through. The one who feared going back to that life was me. If she were still with me, maybe I wouldn't be so scared. But I know she'll never walk beside me again.